Okay, this is my second time trying to do this. Last time I went way over time, so I'm going to skip through some of the sciencey stuff I said last time for all of our benefits. I'm going to be talking about why I think that there is no conspiracy behind keeping a cure for AIDS from the general public. There is no conspiracy by the pharmaceutical companies to keep people in permanent treatment rather than curing them of this disease. And I'm going to explain this both in sort of a social way, and also I'm going to explain it from a scientific perspective. Last time I tried to go through the whole AIDS life cycle, including a lot of the important points that we've sort of used as points of attack against the virus. I'm not going to talk about all those details this time. Instead, I'm going to just go over some really basic stuff. So, first I'd like to say that people are suspicious because people now with AIDS, they'll be on this treatment that's a whole combination of drugs, and they'll be on that treatment basically the rest of their lives. And we've managed to extend people's lives vastly, managed to make it, you don't basically just die shortly in a whole lot of pain from opportunistic infection. We've managed to extend people's lives decades, many decades in some cases. It's really a lot of there's a lot to be grateful for in terms of what we have accomplished. But people are suspicious of this because, hey, you're on treatment for the rest of your lives with this whole handful of drugs. Why wouldn't we just cured it? What's going on? Why isn't this like other things? So I'm going to talk about the science real fast, faster than last time. So the therapy that people use is called HAART, H-A-A-R-T, highly active antiretroviral therapy. And this basically is just, they give you a handful of drugs that are supposed to work well for the particular strain of AIDS that an individual is infected with. And some people are infected with multiple strains, though that's much less common. So, first of all, why do we have these drug cocktails? Well, every single drug in that cocktail was developed initially with the intent of curing AIDS, not treating it. These are not things that we have developed to make somebody's life better while they have AIDS. Every single drug in these cocktails is designed to attack a point in the virus's life cycle. The virus, it attacks a cell, incorporates its genome into our genome, where our cell then copies from the inserted segment of genes, creates more of the viral proteins, which then eventually break out of the cell, go out and infect other cells. So there's a number of places where we try to stop this from happening. We stop it where the virus tries to fuse to the outside of the cell, where it initially injects its contents into the cell. We try and stop it at the point where it copies its genetic information into DNA, which can then be stuck into the cell. We try and stop it at the point where it sticks it into the cell. And we try and stop it at the point where after it's been in the cell, it's been read from our genome into a protein that has a enzyme called, it's a protease. What it does, it chops up that string into subunits, which are then useful. These subunits then become basically the viral proteins that are shipped off into other cells to create more infection. So every single one of these drugs we have is designed to stop one of those four processes. And some of them are very effective compared to others. Some are more better, some are worse. But they all stop some point in the virus's life cycle. They are all intended as cures. And none of them actually work all the way as a cure, because once you're infected, you have what's called your viral load, which is sort of how much of the virus is in your bloodstream. I'm actually not sure quite how that's measured, but it's a measurement of basically the activity of the virus in your body. I'm not going to go into a whole lot more detail, but that's why we have these drug cocktails. These drug cocktails are not trying to make your life that much happier. They're not trying to extend your life. They're trying to cure AIDS. And the fact that they don't cure it is because this is a fucking tricky virus. One thing that people always like to talk about that makes it very tricky to pin down, huge rate of mutation on this thing. The reverse transcriptase, which is what copies the virus genome into DNA, which has been inserted to the human genome, is very error-prone. It has a huge rate of mutation compared to human replication mechanisms. It basically just has some of the various parts of the error checking are just turned off, so it gets a number of mutations that's orders of magnitude higher than you see in humans. And because of this, when you have these millions of different replication events, where you have thousands of cells that are all infected, all these cells are having these copies of the DNA copied, and all it takes is one of those copies to get that mutation, and you're screwed, right? It just takes one to get that mutation that will make it so that the virus is no longer, vulnerable to a given treatment before basically the treatment's worthless, virus gets out, you're screwed. So that's just really quickly the biology behind it. Again, I'd like to stress, these drugs came about by seeking cures, every single one of them. Moving on, the sort of social reasons why AIDS is not a conspiracy. We live in a capitalist society here in the United States, and the company that discovered a cure for AIDS would win. They would destroy the other companies that are giving these, treatment cocktails. They would make the research and development that these other companies have done worth nothing. It takes, what's the number? I don't know why I'm coming up with the number 800 million. It might be more. But it costs millions of dollars, possibly a couple billion, to bring, on average, a drug to market. If you bring a bunch of treatments to market when there is a cure that exists, and one person publishes that cure, you're out hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars that you spent on research and development for these ridiculous treatments. And this works not just on a company level, on an individual level. The individual who found the cure for AIDS in their lab with Nobel Prize, many, many very prestigious awards that this person would then get. They'd be world famous. They'd be a celebrity in the scientific community. I mean, this is what people want as scientists. This is what motivates scientists. We want to find that breakthrough. We want to, cure that disease. We want to do this thing that, is this amazing thing. It's a scientist's dream. And to think that an individual would say, well, I think we could cure it this way, but let's treat it this way. We just don't do that, humans. It doesn't matter if somebody's like, well, we'll pay you to do this. Well, guess what? The whole world will pay you so much more if you can cure it, that there's just no comparison. And lastly, I think that to think that there is some kind of ability to control the research being done, to try and say that this is only, we're controlling it so that we're only looking at treatments, not cures, is a profound misunderstanding of the basic idea of how science works. Science doesn't get done in a single, sort of isolated lab off in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't get done in, the basement of some corporate headquarters. It gets done in the public sphere at every major research university in the country, and in wider sense in the world. There's no way that you could somehow convince all of these scientists to do your bidding. It's inconceivable. There's no possibility at all. Their funding comes from a huge variety of sources, including public funding that's granted by scientists who assess grant proposals. These things are in the public sphere. Public papers, anyone can read what's being published on this stuff. Anyone has access to all this knowledge, and there are thousands of researchers, thousands of AIDS researchers who devote their lives to finding treatments for this. There's no way that you could cover this if you wanted to, if there was a financial motivation. And to suggest otherwise, like I say, I think it's a profound misunderstanding of the way that research happens and the way it works. It's not a lone endeavor. It's very much a community effort. And the reason this felt important for me to say was, I feel almost personally insulted when I hear people saying, oh yeah, we're just looking for treatments, we're not trying to cure people. I mean, what you say when you say that, you are telling these men and women who devote their lives to finding cures, who have spent decades of their lives doing their best to help people. and not necessarily for huge amounts of money, working in academia as a researcher. You're telling these people that they're essentially, incredibly evil, that they are intentionally dooming people to suffer, years or months, depending on the time that they're dying of opportunistic infection. You're telling these people that they're dooming people to horrible deaths in an intentional way, which I think is ridiculous and disgusting, when these are the people who are spending their time trying to make the world a better place. So anyway, a little bit of the science, a little bit of the social stuff. I'm happy to answer questions I can about the science, and if you want to talk about, well, this is why you're wrong about the social stuff, fine, let's talk about it. I'd be curious. But so those are my thoughts. That's why I thought it was important to say it. Anyway.